But the eyes of the world will be on North London and the Emirates Stadium this weekend as the students and the master go head-to-head. In your company, wonderful to be in the company of Julien Laurens and Leanne Sanderson tonight. Guys, it's all set up for a very big weekend. Just looking at that one, Arsenal versus Manchester City. It's hard to believe that the first round, which gave us so much, was September. It feels like a lifetime ago.
It does, and I think, and obviously City went on that somewhat decline, and I think what people have to remember, they're still sitting in fourth and they're 6 points off of Arsenal. Yeah. Like, I think we're all getting carried away that they're having this awful season, but they're still in a good spot. When I look at the Premier League table, I think, how is that the case? But I think it'll be a completely different game at the weekend. I think we see two teams, obviously Mikel Arteta, Pep Guardiola are good friends. Often at times people have spoken a lot about Mikel Arteta, learning a lot from Pep, but I think one thing that separates the two is the mentality. Like Pep Guardiola previously has known how to get things done and across the line, and Arsenal, when it really matters, seem to kind of capitulate at the wrong time when the pressure is on. So I'm looking forward to this one. I think it'll be completely different. Obviously no Rodri during that game in September. He was there for the ACL during that game. So, but Manchester City is still kind of creeping, coming off the back of that win last weekend against Chelsea. That was a good win for them because Chelsea have been in good form.
That was a big game. You just reminded me that was the game where Rodri got injured. It was the Be Humble game. So much happened. Let's remind ourselves, in fact, and you can...
At the game, at the Etihad, and he started so well, the Savinho assist and the Haaland finish, and then you think, okay, Arsenal aware, City going a goal down, it's going to be difficult for them. Then Rodri gets that injury on his own, his ACL, and I don't know if that changed much in terms of the dynamic of the game. Of course, it's better with Rodri, but he hadn't played earlier this season because he was still recovering from the Euros with Spain in the summer. And then Arsenal came back, and Calafiori with his first goal of the season, then another set piece again, again for Arsenal with Gabriel. And then the big turning point is the Trossard second yellow that we see here. The first one was a bit stupid already. This one even more for kicking the ball away.
Yeah, it was that period at the start of the season where they had a couple of those red cards for kicking the ball away. We won't say anything about who's showing the red card, but just the end of it then, and there is the equaliser. And then the aftermath was so heated. These two sides have obviously gone toe-to-toe for the title the last 2 years.
Yeah, and I think when, emotions are running high at the end of the game, Haaland there obviously telling Mikel Arteta to be humble. It's a little bit, not disrespectful, but that is a coach of another team. I don't think that's necessary in those moments. But again, highly competitive moments. And I think in previous years, when it's come down to it, Manchester City seem to kind of know how to get the job done. But I think there's that rivalry there that we talk about over the years with other teams. We spoke about it earlier previously. Manchester United, Arsenal over the years had that rivalry. This one has that little bit of extra added spice. But I think you look at the table right now, City are in fourth. Everybody expected them to kind of be doing what Liverpool are doing.
Yeah, that Be Humble didn't age well at all, right? It gave us so many good memes for the rest of the season. City on a better track now. So let's hear from both managers ahead of this one. City boss Pep Guardiola was asked today about the impact of Rodri's ACL injury in that draw with Arsenal in September.
The absence for Rodri is massive, but I repeat the same way I've done many times. I have not been just Rodri. But of course, the best player in the world in absence. Tell me one team will not notice. Of course we notice. I would prefer to lose that game and rather have it all season. Absolutely.
There were words said after the game by Mikel. I just wonder, have you had a chance to speak to him since, and how is your relationship with him now?
Exceptional. With him and his family. Exceptional.
How do you sum up the Arsenal-Man City rivalry that's developed in recent years?
Normal. Two teams trying to win.
No more than that?
No.
How decisive do you think this result could be in terms of the title race?
Well, it would be a big boost for us, winning big matches is always something special on it. Every time we play a big match against our big rivals, it brings something extra. It's the confidence, it's the emotion, it's the fact that you are there and you continue to win. So that's what we want to achieve.
Arteta really didn't want to talk about that rivalry. I mean, we play it up in the media, of course, and it is a fact. He's been in Pep's shadow a little bit because he said in the intro, the master versus the student.
Which is true, and he's still a young coach, to be fair. Even if he's been at Arsenal for 5 years now, he's still a much younger coach than Guardiola after this 20-year stellar career, really. I think there's a lot of respect between them two. There's a lot of similarities, like Liam was saying, of course. I think he learned a lot from Pep, and now he's trying to be a little bit different, and he doesn't play really like Pep plays either. But he's got a great record against him. If you think about the last 4 Premier League matches, Arsenal are unbeaten against City. You know, home and away, they seem to have right now a bit of the edge over City and him the edge over Pep. So it'd be very interesting to see. They're usually very tight games, that's the thing. And I think he was right maybe not to go into the very emotional side, rivalry, me against Pep, Haaland against Gabriel, all those kind of matchups which are real, but maybe pre-match you don't go there too much.
Yeah, Leon, just talk to us about what's happening behind the scenes though, and the players, what kind of attitude they'll have coming into this, remembering what happened in September, all the talk about the rivalry and this kind of animosity that they've built up, which we saw highlighted at the end of that game in September.
I think from a player's perspective, these are the games you really look forward to when the fixtures come out, because they're the biggest games and the biggest players want to be playing in them. And I think it's interesting because something that Julian just said reminded me that, remember a couple of years ago, Man City were playing without a number 9. If they put Phil Foden in there. And I think similarly, Mikel Arteta was trying to do that. He's been trying to do that Arsenal with Kai Havertz, and it hasn't quite worked because the standard of players that there has been at Manchester City was on a different level. Their second string team will probably be pushing for a title, and that's about recruitment and not leaving things till the last minute. And we'll come on to that a little bit later, but I think from a player's perspective, I'd be looking forward to this game. And you do think about those things. You know, everyone else is talking about it. We're all like crease of habit. We all go on our phones, so they'll be looking at these things. It's not like they put their phones away and they don't look at what everyone's talking about. And I'm sure Mikel Arteta will be using, to a certain degree, I don't know this for a fact, Haaland saying be humble in one of his chats. You know, Mikel Arteta is quite animated in his pre-game chats, and I think they can use that as ammunition, because I would be, because I'd want to win that game for me, but I'd certainly want to win it for my manager when a player from the other team. Be interesting to see how the result goes if Arsenal do win the game, because at the end of the game they'll probably still have a few little conversations, but I'm okay with that. It's a highly competitive sport. You know, we're all competitors. And I think back in the day, this was pretty normal when Roy Keane and Patrick Vieira were going at each other and those types of things. So I kind of welcome that type of thing.
Yeah, interesting that Haaland at the end of the game was involved in that little scuffle. The be humble, you know, has now lived on for the rest of the season, but also in game. And his battle with Gabriel was fascinating to watch.
Yeah, that's true. And what I thought was even more interesting is that in previous games where Haaland didn't score for a long time against Arsenal, it was against William Saliba, who was clearly had the best of him in those games. And for that game especially, Haaland clearly was targeting Gabriel more than Saliba, and be on the Gabriel side of things. Okay, we see it there on the goal. That's not really a duel between him and Gabriel. It's just him exploiting the space really well. But through the whole game, more like this, it was him on Gabriel. He was kind of like, I don't want Saliba on my back anymore. I want Gabriel. I'm going to target Gabriel. Maybe Gabriel is not as strong defensively as Saliba. So you would expect the same to happen again on Sunday and see how Gabriel responds. It's just keeping your emotions low. Arsenal can't get another red card. It's hurt them too much this season. Same for City. You can't go to the Emirates and lose a player halfway through the game, for example. So this was a bit naughty from Haaland, of course, if you all remember. Very naughty a bit and a bit childish even, but it's in a way part of the kind of mind games that you can have sometimes at that level between players.
I think Gabriel did really well there to not retaliate, because if that was me in that situation, I've only ever had one red card in my whole career for 2 yellows, but I find that quite difficult to kind of respond to that, because he stayed quite calm in those situations.
I wonder how heated it's going to be, because we've just had a look at that, and you said if you're Mikel Arteta, you'll be reminding them of all that. The uproar, I think, afterwards was not only the be humble, but it was also him doing that to Gabriel with the ball, and he got away with it at the end. Nothing happened to him.
Yeah, but I think you have to be careful. There's a line where you want your players pumped up, but not too much, because again, you need to start on the front foot and have a good start of the game. But if, again, you can't lose a player, you can't get 2 yellows in the first 10 minutes for 2 defenders, for example, for instance. So I think Arteta will have to be careful to get the players pumped up, and Pep will do the same, but not too much, so they keep their calm as well, and you don't like hurt yourself in a way.
I think they need to approach it similarly to how they approached the North London derby a couple of weeks ago, where the fans, we know they're going to be up for these types of games. The atmosphere was night and day from the Sunday in the FA Cup against Manchester United. Although that was heated, there's that extra bit of spice when it's a rival. And I think the players need to channel that type of performance within this game, because right now, although Manchester City are coming off that incredible win against Chelsea, we're probably seeing Manchester City in their worst form we've seen in probably like 6 or 7 years. So I think right now, if Arsenal are going to really be up there competing, they need to win this game at the weekend. And I don't think it'll be an easier time to be playing against Manchester City to a certain degree.
No, not at all. Haaland's got 5 goals in his last 5 Premier League games. Phil Foden has more Premier League goals than any other player since in January. 6 goals from his last 6 shots. So City are back on the up. I just wonder with Arsenal, Sunday's a big day for them, but Monday's a big day too, because the transfer window closes and somehow they still haven't signed a striker.
I mean, this is just unbelievable, and it's perplexing, because I think it's one thing the fans and pundits and us saying they need a centre forward because we're not managers. They're managing at the elite level, but it's pretty obvious for everyone to see for the last 2 or 3 seasons. Gabriel Jesus, he works hard, he puts himself around, but he went a period of time where he didn't score for like 11 games last season. So they've needed this for a while, and I think Mikel Arteta has been quite stubborn in these moments, because he has his way of doing things, and it's kind of cost them to a certain degree, because then they're putting in offers for players like Ollie Watkins. I mean, if they think they're going to get Ollie Watkins, from what I'm led to believe, for 40 million, that's just like laughable. Come on, Julian, you're in the know with these types of things.
No, I think the idea was to start 40 and end up at 50 and make a deal, because I think Villa were looking for 60 million for Ollie Watkins anyway.
As they should, though, right?
Yeah, but at 50... If you offer 40 and the club wants 60, you meet in the middle, 50, everybody's happy. And for Oli to go to Arsenal, which has been his club that he's supported all his life, at 29, he probably thought this is now or never, really. And it's not going to happen because Villa won't let John Duran and Oli Watkins go. And that's completely understandable. And I think when Arsenal made that bid on Monday, and when they got involved with Oli Watkins, it was before we knew that John Duran was going to go to Saudi Arabia. At the time, it was Victor Boniface from Bayer Leverkusen going to Al Nassr. No, John Duran. So I think it could have happened. They looked at other strikers before, and that's why this one was a bit later. But again, they're going to miss out on... I don't think they will sign another striker now. And it was going to be Watkins, so no one, and it's going to be no one.
And they're really... Not to make excuses, Mikel Arteta, because these guys recruit in an incredible way. I think Edu, when he was there, did a really good job. But I think the number 9 position, it's just one of those things. Back in the day, you could name so many number 9s that were around. In modern day football, I feel like that position has almost become obsolete, because everybody's playing with the number 10, and the wingers now don't play as players that can play the ball into the box, almost like they're the forwards as well. So I just think the fact that John Duran and Ollie Watkins are the only conversations that we're having about who they can get in, like Evan Ferguson's been available. I'm thinking, like, why don't Arsenal go and get a player like that? I know he's out of favour at Brighton, but he has all the attributes to be a top player in the Premier League. I know offers have been going in for him, but I think Arsenal have left this so late.
And I can't understand that at all. And I think most people can't, because if everyone's been saying for 2 seasons that they've been involved in this tussle, that's what they are missing. Why have they left it so late?
Well, no, I think if Gabriel Jesus doesn't get injured against Manchester United, they don't even go for a number 9.
But that's the problem in itself, though, isn't it? I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. But that's also the problem, because he's not going to get you double digits, and neither is Kai Havertz.
Yeah, that's true. True. You could also argue that Havertz has scored more goals than Ollie Watkins this season, and he's younger than Ollie Watkins. So again, we go back to debate. I think we had it last year at this time when I came on your show, in the sense that Mikel Arteta wants a number 9 that is just not a finisher, that is just not a goal scorer, that can do a lot of other things, including being involved in the build-up play, linking up the play, holding the ball up, pressing, being good in the air. And if you want one of them, there are not that many in the world, really. And Kai Havertz ticks a lot of those boxes, maybe not enough of the goal-scoring box and the finisher box, I get that. But he does a lot of other things that Arteta needs in his team and really believes in. So...
But then Saka having that injury as well, I think sometimes Mikel Arteta needs to be a bit more adaptable to what's in front of him, because I think if Bukayo Saka was still available, then it would be completely different. Maybe the type of player they're looking for, but it's pretty obvious to everybody they've needed a number 9. And I think that's why some of the fans were so frustrated, because Mikel Arteta's coming out in his press conferences saying in other words, they don't need anyone. I love all my players. That's great. A coach loves all their players, but it's pretty obvious to everybody, no matter what team you support, Arsenal need a number 9. Like Mbuemo as well, like Wissa. I know those types of players were linked as well, but they're proven goal scorers in the Premier League. Those types of centre forwards, Mbuemo and Wissa, I feel like go under the radar a little bit because they're at a team like Brentford, but they're banging in goals. Like no one's even talking about them missing Ivan Toney because they've been scoring.
The best one would have been Isak, but Isak is the perfect Mikel Arteta player overall, all around exactly where he needs. It's just not really available and too super expensive if he was available.
Yeah, speaking of goal scorers, because we seen that City have signed 2 defenders and a goal scorer. Omar Marmoush came in and did quite well against Chelsea.
Yeah, I thought he was good for a debut, better than Kusanov, that's for sure. But for Marmoush, he played in the front 2 in Germany at Frankfurt. And when he signed, we talk a lot about how City and Guardiola are going to use him, because City don't really play with 2 forwards and the front 2 with Haaland and somebody else, but Guardiola went for it. That meant De Bruyne on the bench, that meant Foden wide, which is maybe not the best for Foden to use his qualities, but for Marmoush and Haaland, that worked quite well together. So I don't think we will see Marmoush starting against Arsenal on Sunday, because I think they would be a bit too much to have 2 strikers against Arsenal, but certainly in some games it would be a very good option to have.
And certain players, that were let go, like Mahrez, Alvarez, top players, I don't think they fully replaced them in those moments and realised how much they were going to miss them. So Marmoush and those types of players coming in, I think Pep Guardiola realises now. It's admirable that Pep Guardiola has allowed, Zinchenko to leave, then Cancelo left. He doesn't seem to linger. Do you notice at Manchester City, players seem to say they want to leave and then they leave. It's not like this ongoing conversation. So I think those 2 players leaving last season was a massive loss to them, and hopefully Marmoush can bring something different to this team.
Just a quick word on Phil Foden as well. I mentioned no player scored more Premier League goals in January than him. 6 goals from his last 6 shots. That's pretty good strike rate.
It is, and he started off against Brentford, wasn't it? When he loved scoring against Brentford. And I think we know how good Phil Foden is. He was the best player in the Premier League last year, one of the best players in the world. But I think there will be a time where a player will go through moments where they're not scoring goals. And it's like you score 1 and they all come in. And I think sometimes when I had these moments in my career, you're trying too hard because you get in those moments. And there is a lot of pressure on Phil Foden based upon, look at these types of finishes. He's just a natural footballer, isn't he?
The touch he has.
You can't teach this.
No, but those goals that we've seen so far, Ipswich and the Brentford one, where him starting a bit wide and coming inside a lot, which is maybe not what we saw against Chelsea up to, this is his goal, it's on in quick transition. But I do think that Marmoush coming in gives another option to Guardiola, no problem, but they have to be careful that it doesn't hinder what Foden has been doing, maybe in a more central role.
Yeah, exactly as you said. So much pressure at the start of the season. Foden hasn't scored, and now everything he touches seems to turn to goal. Now, when we come back,